never made it, but I know what it takes. I'm motivated by a mix of emotion. Got my statement, and I'm reading it slow so I can understand it fully. Appreciate my standing, go out of this world and right on time. Oh, never in my life have I seen the sky light up like this. I'm far away from Earth and I wanna know if you exist. Mission control, do you read me? Send me my coordinates lately. Mission control, am I drifting? Tie me to someone who will love me, yeah. Wait, I think I'll last a bit longer. Fine.
Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd Family a part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. Hopefully everybody had a great weekend. We'll talk about today's topics coming up here in a matter of moments. But first, don't forget to enter the keyword Ref Brandon at prizepicks.com for your chance to double your deposit up to $100 just by going to prizepicks.com and entering the keyword Ref Brandon. But I want to start out today's video by saying it's a busy Monday here in the Todd household, because today is our daughter Bella's 9th birthday, and she thinks she's the only person in the world that has birthdays. So she thinks that the world is supposed to come to a complete, total standstill, and the axis just stops turning on her birthday so that everybody can do what she wants on her birthday. So it's a busy day here in the Todd household, but congratulations to the Kansas City Chiefs for winning the big game last night. 38-35, great football game. I know I mentioned in yesterday's video that even though the Eagles were the better team from top to bottom roster-wise, I just had a feeling that the Chiefs were going to win, and I've had that feeling ever since Monday, and I just wanted it to be a good game, and it was. And my man Mike and all the other Georgia Tech fans out there may not have much to root for right now because of how bad Georgia Tech is in football, but you can be happy because Harrison Butker won the game last night with basically a chip shot field goal there with 8 seconds to go in the game. He missed a field goal in the first half, but he made up for it by kicking the game-winning field goal. And it's funny because his name is Harrison Butker, but because he has butt in his name and he is a kicker, his nickname is Butt Kicker. But it's not because he kicks butt, it's because he kicks footballs. And it's funny because he's only 27 years old, but I swear it seems like he's been in the NFL for 900 years. But I think that's because since he plays for the Chiefs and they score so many points, you hear his name so much. But he's one of those guys that seems like he's been around forever. And then you find out he's 27 years old, and it's like, man, does he not age? It's kind of like in college basketball back in the 90s. Duke had a player named Trajan Langdon, and I swear it seemed like Trajan Langdon played for Duke for 975 years. I don't know why. He was just that player. It seemed like he was around forever. But great game last night. Andy Reid wins his second Super Bowl as the head coach of the Chiefs. And Patrick Mahomes now gets his second ring, and that's the only downfall to the Chiefs winning, is since Mahomes is so young and now he has 2 rings, now we're going to start hearing, well, as young as he is, can he win 5 rings? Can he win 6 rings? And it's never going to end as long as the Chiefs are competitive. And I think as long as Andy Reid is their coach, they will be competitive. But since we're talking about football, I wanted to go ahead and throw this out there at you in case you have not seen it. I saw this over the weekend from On3, but this is a conversation and a topic that's been going on since basically last football season, and it's ramped up even more now because last week we got word that Oklahoma and Texas are leaving the Big 12 after the 2023 college football season, and they will be in the SEC come the 2024 college football season. They're going to go ahead and pay millions and millions of dollars to go ahead and jump ship to the SEC. And there's been all kinds of chit-chat and banter and talk about what the SEC is going to do about conference realignment once those 2 schools join the conference. Some people say it's still going to be an 8-game conference schedule. Some say it's going to become a 9-game conference schedule. I've heard Oklahoma's going to go to one side. Texas is going to go to one side. You hear that Oklahoma and Texas is going to stay on the same side, and one of the other teams will get moved from one side to the other. This past year, there was talk that since there's now going to be 16 teams, they're going to have 4 pods, and there will be 4 teams in each pod. They would go to a 9-game schedule in the conference. You would play the other 3 teams in your pod, and then you would play 2 teams out of the other 3 pods for a total of 9 conference games, and those 6 teams would rotate on a yearly basis. But now On3 has put out the latest rumor, which is what's going on now, that it will be 8 teams in each side, just like it is now. You have the East, you'll have the West, but instead of 7 teams in each side, you'll have 8 teams on each side. Still not sure whether or not it's going to be an 8-game schedule or 9. Supposedly it's going to be 9, but that has not been confirmed as of yet. But it is going to be some realigning, so it'll stay like it is now as far as the East and the West, and there'll be 8 teams on each side. But if this comes to fruition, it makes more sense than what you see now, because you've got Missouri in the East, which makes no sense whatsoever, and then you have Alabama and Auburn in the West, which makes no sense whatsoever. So geographically, this makes a lot more sense. I wanted to put it out there and get everybody's opinion on it, whether or not you think this will happen, and if it does, do you like it? Do you hate it? And of course, it lists the teams alphabetically, and I wrote it down just like it lists, so I'm going to read them alphabetically from each side. The East will have Alabama, Auburn, Florida, Georgia, Kentucky, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Vanderbilt. The West will be Arkansas, LSU, Mississippi, Mississippi State, Missouri, Oklahoma, Texas, and Texas A&M. As I said, geographically, that makes so much more sense because you have Alabama and Auburn, who are East Coast teams, playing in the East. And you have Missouri, who's not a West Coast team, by any stretch of the imagination, but they're a lot closer to being out west than they are being in the east. So geographically, this makes more sense. And it would also make more sense they would go to a 9-game schedule, because it would give you more teams to play and make it where you don't have to rotate teams as often. Because if they stay with an 8-game schedule, my guess would be you would play the other 7 teams in your division, and then you would play one yearly team on the other side, which is basically what it is now. And that sucks, because that means you would play the same 8 teams every single year. You would play the 7 teams on your side, and then you would play your yearly rival from the other side. So the other 7 teams from the other side, you would never play, and that sucks. So they need to either go to a 9-game conference schedule, or don't have the yearly rival from the other side. Just like now we have, Georgia every year plays Auburn, and things like that. Tennessee every year plays Alabama. You could drop that and just stick with an 8-game schedule and play the other 7 teams on your side. And then instead of playing your rival from the other side, just play one new team every year. That way, every 8 years, you've played every team from the other side. Otherwise, if you stick with an 8-game schedule, a lot of these teams, even though they're in your conference, you're not going to play them unless you meet up with them in the conference championship game. And I don't understand what point is it to have teams in your doggone conference that you ain't going to play. It makes no sense to me. If you go to a 9-game schedule in your conference, even if you do have the one yearly rival from the other side, you still have one open spot for the other teams. That makes a little more sense. Any thoughts on it again, please feel free to let me know. And as I said, this came from On3, because this is the latest rumor going on. It's not something that On3 made up. It's just this particular article that I read came from On3, and this is the latest rumor. Makes sense. I like the pod system a lot better. That's just my personal opinion, but it seems like with the pod system, it would be a lot easier to decide who plays who, because you would play the 3 teams in your pod every year, and then you would play 2 teams out of the other 3 pods every year, and those 6 teams would rotate. That seems like a lot easier than this convoluted schedule right here, because I just don't like the fact that you have teams in your conference that you're never going to play. I don't see what purpose it serves to say, hey, we got that team in our conference. We've played them one time in 25 years. Why are they even in your conference? What purpose does that serve? It just makes no sense to me. But don't forget about Homes for Our Troops, the publicly funded 501c nonprofit organization that builds and donates specially adapted custom homes nationwide for severely injured post 9/11 veterans. Since its inception in 2004, nearly 90 cents of every dollar spent has gone directly to our program services for veterans. Visit at hfotusa.org. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. Biologists have recently produced immortal frogs by removing their vocal cords. they can't croak. And that wraps it up for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.